Chair. Walter Kimberly, Edwards, Ward 19.
Walter Honda Smith, Ward 30.
Darrell Rushing, Vice Chair, Education Committee, Ward 26.
Chair of Education, Walter Ortiz.
Untitled Ward 1.
Thank you. And now we're going to introduce the Hill Health Center. If they'd like to come up to the front, Dr. Tech.
Thank you very much.
If you could just state your name and address for the record.
This close to your mouth and
Okay,
speak.
can I go?
Yes.
So my name is AJ Tech,
This close to you. Oh, speak into it. Yeah.
74 Garden Road, Bridge, Connecticut. Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me tonight. So I will present for my special class center. I'm saying it's adult, geriatric and addiction psychiatrist, but my role is I oversee our behavioral health services at Cornell Special Health Center. So I don't know, maybe I should give every information. Cornell Special Health Center is a federally qualified health center. And so we are the only FPHC in the United States providing detox and methadone services. But we see behavioral health, mental health, and addiction services part of medical health. So this is why we are obligated to provide health for everything, not only physical health, but mental health. So this is why we cover adult, child, and geriatric services in addition to addiction services. And last year we had almost 8,000 patients, so in the New Haven area, and 800 of them, they were kids. And so in our team, we have almost 100 social workers and 20 psychiatrists. And these psychiatrists, 3 of them are child psychiatrists. So this is the team I'm overseeing. And so I'm honored to be here today, so to talk about mental health services for kids. So I would like to start a couple of things. So suicide is the second leading cause of death for our youth in the United States. It's unbelievable. And the other thing, 75% of all mental health illnesses develop by age 24. So can you imagine, if we can erase child abuse, we can prevent almost half of mental illness. So it is amazing. If you think like this, so if we can prevent abuse and anxiety and childhood trauma, then it is like almost half of the severe mental illness we can prevent. And COVID-19 pandemic has played a stressful role in the well-being of our youth. So it's, we all know we fitness and we hear, we are reading, and children have experienced major disruptions as a result of public health safety measures, including school closures, social isolation, parents, and gaps in healthcare access to children's mental health during pandemic negatively affected the children's mental health. So a couple of survey results. The physical effect of COVID-19 has generally not been as severe for most children compared to adults, but mental health impacts of pandemic are just as severe. So this is for sure looking at mental health outcomes and access to care issues among children and adolescents are likely to proceed beyond pandemic. And usually these kind of pandemics, we continue to see the effect for the next 10 years, unfortunately. The pandemic may also increase the risk of children having adverse childhood experience. So we call this like violence or being exposed to adult substance misuse, and which can lead to long-term mental health and substance abuse issues for the youth. This brief highlights the need for policymakers. So I'm so glad so you are paying attention to these issues because we know our youth will be affected and for the next 10 years, it means the young adults, as a young adult, they will develop mental health and addiction problems. And so many parents, they reported poor mental health outcomes in their children throughout the pandemic. And now 30% of parents, they say child's mental health and emotional health already harmed. And October 2020, it increased to 31%. So kind of last year, so they checked mental health related emergency room visits among all pediatric visits increased almost 24% increase. It's amazing. So this is the age between 5 to 11. So significant increase ER visits with emotional complaints, and 31% increase among adolescents aged between 12 to 17. This is a significant number. And so what can we do? So this is really, first of all, immediate needs to continue to ensure post-event safe school environment should be our priority. And teachers have significant role in promotion of mental health among students. They can discuss what well-being is and how it is important for students. They can assist in teaching simple exercise, deep breathing, muscle relaxation, distraction, and positive self-talk. But who will help our teachers? So this is the most important thing. We have to provide appropriate resources to our teachers and make sure our teachers' well-being first, and then they can help our kids. And our teachers can serve as a doorway for identification and referral to specialty mental health providers. They have a role as a catalyst between parents and the kids. And so we need to advocate for the health and wellness groups for students to address fears and anxieties into their curriculum. So this is the other thing. And school-based social workers can provide a continuum of mental health services. So school-based social workers can provide brief therapy, and then if they need extended services, they will refer them mental health services. But access to care is very important. So the refers to community services such as outpatient child guidance clinics for, like Cornell's Health Center. So with the support of school authorities, teachers need to make arrangements to ensure that reading materials, so these are the simple, maybe practical reading materials related to academics and life skills. So this is something we can do, we can pay attention immediately. And for the kids, underprivileged children who do not have access to internet, and if possible, arrangements can be made for them. There is no internet use, and the handbook, a mental health section, explaining anxiety and depression, and the other things. So we need to increase discrimination and make it. So it's very, most of the time, the parents, they are very hesitant to refer their kids to therapists and counseling, and they are afraid of labeling. So we have to normalize, and we have to make it just regular pediatric checkup. So it's okay to talk with counselor. It's okay to feel anxious. And so we have to advocate recovery and hope. This is the most important thing. So my experience most of the time, so their biggest fear, this will be permanent, and this will be in their kids' record, especially underprivileged and minority communities. So the biggest fear is, in the past, so this is the way they are labeling my kids. And then after they become adult, so there is no way they can find a job because they will have permanently ADHD in their records, or they will have some kind of depression, bipolar, and severe mental illness in their records, and they will be labeled. So we have to promote hope, and we have to promote recovery. So we have to normalize. This is just like, medical issue. So, there is treatment, and this is temporary, and there is hope. I think this is the most important thing. We have to educate our parents. We have to provide support for our teachers. We have to normalize mental health issues. It's okay to have mental health or emotional problem. There is recovery. For a couple of months, brief therapy, and your kid will be fine. So this is the most important thing in my mind. So, answer any question?
Any questions from the committee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you talk more about what kind of support teachers need?
So right now, so our teachers, they are in hotspot. It's their job is very difficult. So now these kids, they've been isolated for 18 months. Here we are coming back to the world. So probably I will say our teachers' mental health, so the support. And maybe we can create handbooks for the parents and for the kids. And so we can train our teachers how to screen mental health problems. And so probably, what about their well-being, teachers' well-being? And so probably giving them extra time. And so kind of this is my mind, the doctors, we have CMEs. What about teachers? So kind of some kind of training for them and give them extra time to learn these relaxation techniques. Then they can, pass this information to their kids.
Do you have other ideas about how to reduce stigmas around mental illness and seeking therapy?
Probably should normalize. It's okay to be anxious. It's okay to have depression and the recovery and hope. We have to promote hope. So my experience, lots of people, they suffer silently. And so kind of make them talk. And it is so kind of normalized. For example, in my household, so because I'm a psychiatrist, it's normal to feel anxious. And so it is just like having other medical issues, like heartburn. It is fine. So we need to, sometimes I feel like, am I talking, like, is this psychiatric jargon? So am I emphasizing, kind of asking to, but it is okay to feel anxious sometimes to times. So it doesn't mean you have anxiety disorder or you will have anxiety disorder the rest of your life. So it doesn't mean you will have severe mental illness, but it is okay. So just like high blood pressure, or sometimes, I don't know, so the other medical issues. So sometimes you may have these things, it is totally fine. And there is treatment. So probably this is the more we talk, the more we normalize, and stigma is very important. So this is why people, they suffer silently. They're afraid of stigma. They don't want to talk about this. And then, so kind of they're afraid if they say something, the others will see them as weak or crazy, something, and they will not be valuable member of the society.
Last question, how do the numbers you mentioned around patients and children at Cornell Scott compared to previous years?
There is a big demand. There is significant increase in demand. The numbers are increasing. So we are thinking about how we can meet the demand. So kind of today we were talking about the wait list. I hate to have wait lists. So these referrals, they need to be seen, in my mind, in 5 days or a week. So we are coming up with different projects, stabilize them, and if they are on medication, transfer them back to pediatrician or primary care. These are the projects we are coming up, and how we can provide brief CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and then discharge them. How can we hasten the process that we will be available to more children or adults, and demand is really high. For example, in the past, so kind of it was interest for the last 2 years. We were seeing only Medicaid, Medicare recipients. And these days, lots of, commercial issues we are seeing. And lots of referrals from, even the kind of the connected care, for example. So it is like kind of commercial insurance and people so these people, they were not seeking treatment at FQHC. I was like, this is the first, for the last 2 years. Now they are seeking, obviously there is a big demand. The private practitioners, they are not able to meet the demand. Now they are seeking, they are coming to us. So this is a big difference for the last 2 years, I'm noticing. So there is a big demand, and so lots of referrals from emergency rooms. And people, they go to emergency room more frequently now for emotional problems. So we are coming up different, we are expanding the services. So 2 weeks ago, we did expand our West Haven location, for example, and the Columbus location. So we are putting more teams, Spanish-speaking teams. And so we did recruit another child psychiatrist, and our child family guidance team is getting bigger and bigger. But the other issue we are facing, workforce. So we are having very difficult time to recruit social worker and psychiatrists. We are, I'm lucky, so now our team is big, but still we are not enough to meet the demand.
What are the wait times? It's more than 5 days.
So right now, so our goal is no wait list. So we screen everyone. And for example, depending on the urgency of the meeting. For example, I've been feeling a bit anxious for the last 6 months. But there's a big difference, and I've been feeling a bit down for the last two months. So kind of depending on the severity. So we try not to have wait lists. In adult side, we don't have, and the child side, if the parents are Spanish speaking, we prefer Spanish speaking social workers or the prescriber. So depending on, so right now, kind of, I will say 2 weeks, if not longer than 2 weeks, this is our goal. But if there is, urgency, the ER visit. So if they hit emergency room, our rule is they have to be seen by psychiatrists in 5 days. Whoever hits emergency room, they have to be seen by psychiatrist or psychiatrist in 5 days. So make sure, all the medications and the safety assessment. So this is our internal rule.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about whether you and your team saw any patterns over the past 2 years where you're seeing more patients coming in, more kids coming in, like when there was an outbreak in a school and kids were in isolation because of that, or whether you saw fewer kids coming in when more activities were happening, or when kids went back to having school in person. I was wondering if you saw any patterns like that.
So what we are seeing, more crisis at school, and the kids, so they are very anxious, and so they are acting out. We use the term acting out, and so it's very difficult to control that. Or so they are like for the last 18 months, they forget about the youth. And so they don't know how to behave. And so it is difficult for us to understand, is this really mental illness or kind of a reaction to new realities? So it's difficult. So this is why we have to be very careful. We shouldn't label anyone. So this is number 1 rule. And so the other thing, and I always advise, don't jump to medication. So first understand, gather all the information to understand what is going on, and start with the therapy, and maybe helping the parents, helping the teachers, helping the caregivers will be number 1. Then, kind of after gathering, then come up with a plan. But most of the time, school the school time, early in the morning. So this is they call us from the schools or emergency room Friday nights always, just before the weekends. So the ER visits very common, and so we get the referral. And the other thing, so these days, what we are doing, normalizing. So we switched to electronic medical record, and we are fully integrated. So it means the pediatrician and our behavioral health team, we use the same electronic medical records. So we communicate through electronic medical records, and this is the part of normalizing behavioral health. We are part of medical team. And pediatrician and social workers, our psychiatrists, they communicate with each other through it. So I don't use the electronic. So this made a big difference for us. And the referrals, the emergency room pediatricians or practicing pediatricians, it's very easy for them to refer the kids to us. And then we can see what's going on and we can communicate through electronic medical records. So this is really, this made a big difference for us. And I believe this made a big difference normalizing behavioral health. We are the part of pediatric health.
Just one last question. Would you have any recommendations for our school system in terms of policies during the pandemic that you think would be best helping address?
Oh, I know everybody will say expand school-based clinics. So expand social workers at school and provide support and financial sustainability. So kind of how everybody will say the same thing. I can imagine my colleagues, but school-based mental health is very, very important. And they are the bridge, and they will provide brief therapy, and they will do screening, and then if necessary, they will refer kids to mainland. And access to care.
Great. Thank you.
So thank you very much. It's a pleasure. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have one question. I heard you say that a lot of the parents do not respond or want to tell you why they don't want the service. Is there any mechanism in place to help the parents, like a pre before the children, you see the children, of giving the parents help?
Wonderful question. I agree. First, we have to help parents. So what we are doing, we are reaching out to our community. And so this is our number one mission. So reaching out to our community, we are going to, churches, we are going to schools. And so we are giving talks and normalizing and make them understand their kids' behaviors, why they're acting like this, the anxiety, and when they may need therapists. And it's okay to talk with us. It doesn't mean they have to have treatment, but it's fine to reach out to us. So this is the part of our mission. So reaching out to parents, reaching out to our community as a federally qualified health center. This is very important for us.
Thank you. One other question. I also overheard you stated that you match Hispanic children with Hispanic social workers. And I understand that there's a lot of minorities that refuse to talk to others because they don't feel comfortable.
Exactly.
Right? Extend it out to other ethnicities besides Hispanics.
It's very important for us. So the other thing, we have to represent our community. So it is very important. So I will say, so in the United States, 2% of psychiatrists, they're African American. And one of our child psychiatrists, I'm very proud. So 2 of our child psychiatrists, they're African American because we have to be the part of our community. And then, so our therapists, and they represent the minorities. We have African American social workers, Spanish speaking Latino social workers, and so kind of female, male. So mostly we have female social workers, and female psychiatrists. But so we do our best to represent our community. So it is very important for us in our team for NASCAR. We have the tuna clinic, and we have we try to, whenever there is a need, so we try to represent minorities. And the other biggest thing, so we are paying attention these days, LGBT youth. So we are really kind of creating a team for LGBT youth. And so we do our best. I totally agree with you. It's very important for the community and to represent minorities.
Absolutely, I think it's very important because every culture respond and reacts to the families totally different. Thank you for being a big energy.
I just want to thank you for answering the question you answered. I want to say thank you for saying out loud, it's okay to not be okay. I think it's that simple, and that's such a simple message that we need to give to our kids and to ourselves. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to have a discussion and find that person that you can have that conversation with. You spoke about hiring. I don't even know if you said hiring, but you spoke about the workforce.
Yeah, it's difficulties and challenges these days.
So are you actively seeking people?
Oh, yes, always.
Okay, because I didn't know if that was just a wish or.
No,
And you
no,
are actively
no.
recruiting and hiring.
we are acting every day, recruiting,
Because that- that's-
non-stop.
Okay, so I will make sure I spread the word on that.
Yes, we are
Um,
actively recruiting social workers, and we prefer social workers and therapists from minorities. So this is but we are actively recruiting every day. Please spread the word.
I most certainly will
Yes.
spread the word. Because like you said, there is that stigma and it's generational. I mean, and I know in my culture, there's not wrong with you.
Yeah.
You're not gonna stop crying. We tell boys don't cry, you gotta be strong, you gotta be tough, but you don't
Look at
have.
the others, they are
Yeah.
doing this,
It's a
and
little
so
bit.
they are worse than you, why are you, saying these things?
Exactly. So I just thank you for your, it was very informative and keep up the good work.
Thank you very much, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.
Thank you for.
And our next guest speaker will be Clifford Beers.
There you go.
You just state your name and address for the record.
I'm Karen Mazzarri, 129 Cottage Street. So I'm Karen Mazzarri, I'm the director of the solution at Supervisors. They're in part of our investigation at the Regional High School through the SEAL program at Supervisors. So our mission at Supervisors is to provide integrated services which address mental, physical, and social determinants in order to improve health, resiliency, and quality of life for our children, families, and communities. We are a New Haven-based nonprofit that was established in 1903. We are a community safety net for families without access to private mental health services due to financial language and other cultural barriers. We offer outpatient behavioral mental health services, which is at our 93 Edward Street clinic location. We also offer these services in the public schools and in community and home-based settings as well. We are family focused and strength-based, culturally affirming intervention, and we help close to 5,000 children and family members each year through clinical and community programs. In our virtual training, professional development, and support groups, we also offer classroom trainings, which reached over 1,200 individuals in 2021. And all of our practices are trauma informed. Our response to the COVID-19 pandemic. So we collaborate with leading public schools, city officials, and local organizations to address pandemic-related mental health needs. And help to close the opportunity gap for children with families in children. And so some of the things that we responded to are basic needs. Our families are struggling to obtain these basic resources like food, shelter, and healthcare. And so through our community partnerships, we help families meet those basic needs by providing food, clothing, and remote technologies. We also link families to longer-term assistance and financial resources. We also set up learning hubs, which were crucial during the 2020-2021 school year. And these were a safe space for children to go before, during, and after the school day. They offered supervised distance learning with high-speed internet access and social support and enrichment. Student homelessness, so families facing homelessness in their dangerous living conditions spiked drastically during the pandemic. And so we help those families find temporary housing to provide monetary support for families who are also displaced by fire. Community violence, which we continue to see in the community. Our response is to support individuals, families, and communities impacted by the community violence and tragedy given. Our community healing support team, which is up and running right now, they operate 7 days a week, and they respond to traumatic events to de-escalate and to facilitate family and community healing. That is in partnership with the city of New Haven Community Services Administration. So all of our community years are strong.
Pull your mask down a little. Sorry, you sound muffled.
So all the programs, through the years are drawn. Violence, on the other hand, loss, physical and sexual abuse. That was some of the goals, suicide on the side or losses. Goals in health and insecurity, incarceration of caregiver or loved one, and or discrimination. It has from the anxiety, depression, emotional stress disorder, poor attendance, low academic achievement, emotional isolation, acting out in the classroom, in the educational setting, and the result effects including disability and as far as concerning the Indian public schools, what we do is a broad spectrum of mental health support services models of care for students, families, and staff throughout the Indian public schools. We are a wraparound model, so that so we are a wraparound model where we set high to commission and we once we get for we are in my job. So, once a child is referred to me, I reach out to the parent, explain the different services offered, what I do the best outcome is if they're working with the school research itself and care coordination. So I would see the child in school, individually have a family session, and care coordinator would be in the family, in the community, with the family guardian. How do we do this? Permission by students with individual group therapy, screening services, family training, family services, coaching, consultation. We also try to inform enrichment programs to students, staff members, support staff, anyone in the building. We are located currently, we are in 9 elementary schools and middle schools and our 4 high schools. We are currently embedded in 5 schools across New Haven, as we have full-time clinicians in the building 5 days a week. And then we have a New Haven Trauma Coalition, which will allow trauma-informed groups to other schools. Right now.
So our vision for wellness, so I'm single I was here to create the most intensive and so intensive time and intervention, including one-to-one support for children, care coordination for the family, teacher training and community consultations. And at that tier 2 middle level, are those targeted trauma interventions, so more brief clinical interventions, group programs, community linkages for families, training for educators. And at the tier 1 level, universal interventions or training for students, staff, and caregivers, as well as screening, so screening for chronic stress and fatigue, as well as social emotional health education. And so our comprehensive approach to care, so we work with families to connect them to community resources, while encouraging independence. So we, at the end of the day, want to teach them to be their own care coordinator and their own advocate. And so we try to really strengthen those connections with individuals for the family, help families create long-term relationships with both formal and informal community supports. So we always say those natural and informal supports are those who are going to be there after the care coordinator or clinician is no longer working with them. We really try to sustain and do those background services so that they can supports. And we also coach families in ways to look ahead, planning rather than reacting. Right.
So on the clinical end, we do assessments and take individual, family, and group interventions, school and home based consultation with school staff, participation, and weekends, psychiatric service, and anything that relates to that directly impact the child.
Yep, and so with care coordination, we use the wraparound model as our driving force when working with families, and this really is the family's ability to address challenges, see it at home, in the community, at school, and in the workplace. So we really try to get to what the underlying need is for those behaviors that we are seeing at school, or at home in the community as well. And we really try to build teams of natural, formal, and informal support. And so really seeking out those unpaid providers to really help support the family. We're very strength-based for our whole family approach, so the care coordinators do not have to make decisions for the family at the end of the day. It's their own decision. And we really try to engage and empower our families to partner with school staff and other providers. So school is always priority number 1 for us when it comes to support for families. And really teaching them how to advocate for themselves, their family, and their community. So just a little bit of background, Carrie and I have actually worked with families multiple times for caring as a clinician. I was the care coordinator, and it really, the model really works. This slide just kind of shows an infographic about how the family is really at the center. And everybody else involved is kind of on the outside, just helping the family. The way that the care coordinator really facilitates the relationship with the clinician in the school is through a once-a-month or more often what we call a child and family team meeting, where a plan is developed that includes everybody who's at the table for that family. So everybody has something to do, everybody's responsible for something, so it's really a team effort.
So I thought this areas were very research driven. Every client, individual, and family are either have pre and post assessment. We want to know that what we're doing works. If it doesn't work, then we need to fix it. So we measure our outcomes, and one of the best things under product is the fact that we're able to reduce the unexcused absences, reduce the pandemic by 50% absences. I mean, we were able to engage families, to engage the kids to sign off the virtual learning. And I think that's a phenomenal feat. We were able to reduce the excuse absences by 40% and overall attendance class. We have our own research and assessment department. These are some of our trauma-informed care training that we did in 2021, like I said, each family is given a food survey when at intake and then a survey again at discharge. This is the how far it's gone.
And so what are our next steps? To really provide all of the public school students, families, and staff with access to these essential support services. So like the training and the screening and care coordination. as well as clinical support to really cultivate and expand a network of community providers working within and in partnership with schools in order to meet the high demand for these services that we're seeing. Continue to partner with the city of New Haven and even public schools to meet these families' needs. Increase opportunities for educators, teachers and staff to participate in trauma-informed care training. Expand services for parents, like support groups, and offering them more and in different areas. And improve universal screenings to identify students and families early on. And so thank you for having us today. Thank you for any questions.
I just have one. Madam Chair. On page 9, your outcomes, your snapshot, how many students were included in that?
Roughly, like I said, we are embedded in 5 schools, plus we also do groups in another 8 or 9 different schools. So I don't know the number off the top of my head. On average, each clinician is 5 embedded to carry in between 20 to 35 kids per caseload.
Any further questions?
Thank you, Andrew. Which schools are you embedded?
So currently, we are at Beaches High School Community, Regional for High School, we are in Truman, Webster Grant, and Bishop Woods. Those are the 5 embedded schools, and we made Trauma Coalition. I don't know off the top of my head, but we're in the majority of the schools. We go around and we try to form groups with parents and staff.
What's the cost of word machine? Right, roughly like, in terms of thinking about universalizing or institutionalizing it. I guess I'm wondering like what the scale of the reason.
So we are funded through, we have SOAR clinicians and we also have Dalio, so the Dalio Foundation, actually funds piece of it.
What is the CDSS for?
The CPSS score is something that we give to the child and family to assess their current social function, social and mental function.
Thank you for being here. I was wondering, when you talk about next steps, I was wondering, what are the resources that you're looking for, changes from the city, from the Board of Ed to implement those next steps?
What I would say to that is to just really have embedded clinicians in all of the schools rather than just choosing the 9 that we have. And so I think that would probably involve, more funding and more awareness and education of why we do that, as well as care coordination. So definitely increasing the care coordination piece of it embedded into all schools in New Haven.
Do you have any rough estimate of how much it would cost the city or in grants to expand?
I do not off the top of my head, but we could find that out for you.
Also add additional training to school staff to learn how to deal with this, like myself, I'm in school every day. There's constantly a teacher sending a student to out the classroom to get anxiety. Some teachers are not equipped to deal with anxiety symptoms. They're not equipped to handle a panic attack in a class of 30 kids. It's disruptive to the learning process. It's not what we're trained to do. And so I'm constantly either being called to come up or they're being sent to my office or to the nurse. So teachers, we need support in order to support them. In the fact that these kids are coming back after 18 months and they're off track. They're off track. The 9th grade class is struggling. You think about it, they've been out since 7th grade. They're 2 years behind education, socially, and developmentally. They're screaming for help. and in a building of 700 at career with only 3 social workers, it leads for a very busy day and a very disruptive learning process.
I just wanted to also touch on, how did you choose these schools? To be funded, these certain schools and not the other schools?
That's interesting. These schools were actually in place before I came to this department. I've been at public affairs for many years as at EMPS first, and then I transferred over to the school-based program. I'm not quite sure how these schools were chosen at the time. I know we have since grown partnerships that provide this care coordination, for instance, like the Riverside and Bassett, we have a full-time care coordinator there. But I'm not quite sure how these schools came to be chosen.
So they also have an MOU with us as well, and so that kind of creates the relationship. So it's based on need as well as the responsiveness from the school to want to have us there as well.
And also, how do you think we could maybe expand it to all the families within the public schools, maybe through a general webinar or try to get the word out to the other schools that are not having you part of their plan daily?
Yeah, I think definitely integrating with and partnering with the Board of Ed to get us on some kind of regular sharing stream or a webinar or something where it is open to all schools and everybody knows about it, I think would be really important. I think what happens a lot of the times is that like certain people will show up, or we have a relationship with one person, but not this person. So I think it's really building that relationship and that base first for us to be able to really spread the word.
I would say to add that telehealth and we were able to reach new students outside of the 5 schools that we were embedded in, and other schools that were considered the trauma rooms. So with that, we were getting a lot of referrals from community to get that at other school, and also some social care coordination.
Yeah.
Families who didn't know what that program was because we weren't embedded in. And there were times when the families had care coordination because they had the basic needs, but the child might not have a clinical.
That we did see a drastic increase beginning in November last year of care coordination referrals, both for those care coordination programs that are in the schools and for our traditional care coordination as well. So we also cover care coordination for those people that need it, that don't attend a school that has care coordination attached to it. So we cover everybody for care coordination. You're welcome.
Any further questions?
I have a question. You mentioned during the pandemic, that kids missed out on a lot. I want to ask you, during the pandemic, have you had any behavior problems with the children online?
Yes. Yes. Like I said, telehealth has been a very great thing to still be connected with the families, be able to see or literally see in their homes. We did have a lot of connections with the kids, with the families, a lot of 211 calls, and the NPS services through the clinic was very busy. Parents did reach out more. I also found when school was shut down, the parents that weren't, on board when they were in the building was like, oh my God, I have to call the principal to get your number, just to say my child needs help, or he's exhibiting these behaviors we've never seen before. So we were able to keep in contact with their families and be able to referrals, like I said, through other schools that we were not embedded in throughout the pandemic.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you again for all your work.
Thank you.
There you go.
And address for the record.
I'm Jenna Joseph Lumpkin and Chief of Youth Family and Community Engagement in the Green Public Schools. I live at 72 Shepherd Avenue, New Haven.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Superintendent of Schools. 2226 Market Street.
Good evening, Kermit Carolina, Supervisor of Youth Development and Engagement in the Public Schools, 85 Hemlock Road, New Haven.
I believe that we have a PowerPoint. Are we ready? Thank you.
Before we present the PowerPoint, I just want to say thank you for inviting us here. We're always prepared to come when you ask us to come. We in the schools, we are struggling. We're struggling more than we were struggling before. Now we're seeing a lot of things happening for our ladies that we've not seen before. Teachers, principals, the behaviors have. I'm very concerned about my kids. We're trying our best to put mechanisms in place to support them. That we have been doing for our children, but the need is great. The need is very great. We see a lot of things happening to our kindergartners, and these kindergartners have not had much of an preschool preparation. They were free at home to do whatever they had to get accustomed. They were acting structures and routines. It's problematic for a lot of them. So we have a lot going on with our students. Sometimes we're trying to push the academic portion, but I think we need to adjust and reset and get certain things in place. So I'll say that.
I would, well, while we're waiting for the technology to load up, I just wanted to underscore what Dr. Tracy has said about this experiences. We knew while our students were out in home visitation, our communication with families, that it would be a very difficult time for our students returning after a year and a half of being in virtual world. We are also seeing the proliferation and the influence of social media having a particular impact, particularly on our adolescents. There are all kinds of challenges. There are students are going for likes. Students are telling us as we talk to them that it's not that I don't like this particular student who I am quote unquote bullying. It's just that the pressure of the students who are part of this group of friends, pressuring each student to say something else and add something else and do something else to gain the likes. And so I don't think anyone in the world was prepared for that type of influence that social media is having on our adolescents. And you have all heard the congressional hearings that have spoken to what has happened with Facebook and Instagram. That is real, it's happening to our students. We are really proud in New Haven to have been thinking about this work for quite some time. We've been talking about social emotional learning as a critical part of our work. We've been talking about restorative practices, particularly building community before we get to problems. And Superintendent has essentially directed us to ensure that our strategic plan is being addressed and implemented by every single department head in our district. We just today
continued our conversations at the executive team level on what is happening. How do we measure what is happening with our students in terms of not necessarily mental illness, but mental health issues? And how do we, as an executive team, respond along with our administrative staff and other professional supports? So this is front and center for us.
And to be honest with you, in anticipation, we talk about foresight, our vision, in anticipation of this school year opening up 5 days per week, we made sure that we thought about grades 1, 2, crucial, our foundational grades in particular. And in that vein, we have hired 87 teachers to help reduce class size because we saw this coming practically. And so that was a plus on our side to have thought about that. So we would stick grades, and rather than a teacher having 27 children in the classroom, they have 14, they have 15 in that night. In the first, second, and third grade, and I'm pushing my administrators right now to as many part-time staff as you can hire to help with the other grade levels because they need it too. But these are some of the things we saw coming in. So it's a matter of being prepared to deal with as much as possible. Before we go in, I want to my chief of staff and then our grand Dr. Finley, that tall gentleman. You can't see that tall, but he's sitting back there, new chief of staff.
And that's not a minor note because Dr. Finley leads our executive team and he is leading a problem of practice literally around how do we as an executive team support our students and staff as we deal with this business. And so we're going to roll through this presentation. It pretty much speaks to what we've been doing for quite some time, actually, not just starting this year. So if you can go to the next slide, we met our team. We always start with our strategic plan, what's important to us, equity, culture, high expectations, collaboration, and we have a vision and mission that we live by and work towards accomplishing our vision, what we ought to be every day. And our professional staff are in place, our social workers, our psychologists, our counselors. We are looking at social and emotional behavior specialists. We have on board our youth and community engagement team. We've heard a little bit about care coordination tonight from Clifford Bears. We are bringing an in-house group of care coordinators so that we have a team of those specialists ready to go, and we're not relying strictly on referrals to Clifford Bears. So that's in place. Community building is happening as a part of our work around restorative practices at SEL. We are working in small groups in classrooms, lunch bucks, with some of the strategies that are coming out of our SEL office. We're looking to create alternative learning spaces to restore and reconnect rooms, conferencing, meeting with parents virtually. Our school support team is an amazing team. And I got to stop for a moment and speak to our attendance team meetings. I was attending a session with a high school. And let me say, every incident that you read about in a newspaper, we are directly in this room affected by it. We know those students, we know their families. The 14-year-old was murdered recently, who was a father. We know what's happening with that community of families, and those stories are real, and they are affecting all of our students, not just that one situation, not just that one family.
The 30-year-old was a student of mine.
Yeah.
30-year-old was shot.
And so we, in our meeting yesterday, all hands are on deck: principal, the assistant principal, the school counselor, the school social worker, our dropout prevention workers, our in-school suspension, sitting and meeting and looking at student by student and trying to figure out what kind of response we can bring to the table. So I wanted to reference that as we talk about our teams.
That name has been changed in school supports.
In school supports, we're working on getting that, making that official, but that really reflects our vision and the direction, going from in-school suspension to in-school supports. So these are some of the social emotional skills. You heard some of that earlier with the Bears presentation. That sense of empathy, we underscore that. you know, trying to get our particular adolescents and our students, of course, younger age, to see outside of themselves and to help and to support each other. And there's specific strategies for us to get there. We're working on those efforts, culturally responsive teaching practices, and celebrating all of our students. The Restore and Reconnect space is part of the former in-school suspension setting, in where we want to create a space, whether we're virtual, underground, community building, to address students' needs. And it is part of our shift from the traditional suspension and helping us to reduce the impact of exclusion. So you may have seen the slide before, the 6 milestones of youth achievement, supported by our SEL team, making sure students are healthy, reading at grade level. I'm not going to read everything on that slide for you, we'll make it available to you. But again, we're using a set of standards to help us get to our goal of supporting our students.
And so to Jim's point around these 6 milestones for youth achievement, as we know, as we talked about earlier, Dr. Tracy and Jim talked about, we have young people. We know the research says that self-identity and peers have the most influence on our young people in development. You know, how they view themselves is based on how their peers see them at a certain age. And we know that for almost a year and a half, our youth have not been with us, have not been around the adults in our school district. They have been home. We know that the situations at home vary. For some, we know there's some great homes, and we know there's some dysfunctional homes where our kids are at, and there's some dysfunctional neighborhoods, as you guys know, dealing with your population of folks in your ward. And so we know that they've returned to us with a lot of habits that they've developed out in the community, a lot of neglect coming from home and not seeing some things, some of our young people. And so now, as Dr. Tracy mentioned, we're looking to bring in part-time people, as many people as we can, to really support the needs, additional needs that we have. Teachers can't do it alone. So they need that additional support. And so if you have people in your neighborhood who you think are quality people, Dr. Tracy will tell you in a heartbeat, send them downtown to her, and we will do what we can to get them in the schools. They have to be vetted, obviously, but we need them. So, and so to that point, mentorship, being around a positive adult who's consistently in their lives and a cheerleader in their lives is so important. So a lot of the next things that I want to get into is really around mentorship and how we develop young people. And I won't get into details on each one, but based on our strategic school profile, our strategic plan, a priority area 1 is academic learning, and under that 1.4 is college and career readiness. And so we want to ensure that all our students have access to learning opportunities that are specifically aligned to skills needed for a range of future work and life experiences. Increase student enrollment, success in college levels, support students in seamless transitions from middle school to high school and high school to life. Very important as well. So our action, part of the action is to provide targeted support for student success in the transition from 8th grade to high school, especially for those most in need of support. This is a key area here, and there's some examples there, and there are many more, but we're starting there. And the second action is to increase opportunities for students to graduate through access to opportunity programs for overage, undercredited students. As you guys know, one of our alternative schools, Riverside, we provide a great deal of support. We have resources that become available. Ted Jackson leading charge on that, and there's some improvements. A lot of great things are happening over there. The other thing is we know that our males of color need, in particular kids in general, but our males of color in particular need to have focus on college and particularly on careers, and we plan to make sure we expose them to that for you. Priority area number 2, youth and family engagement, extended learning opportunities, provide students and families with increased access to extended learning opportunities through staggering academies, after-school programming, and mentoring. So as you can see, action, increased mentorship with students, particularly Black and Latino males, most at risk of dropping out of school. And you can see we have some mentorship programs that we've already started, and some that will be started along the way. We're going to be doing a citywide conference for those young people. And also we want to use, we want the mentor, it's like training, trainer. We want the mentor mentoring the mentor. So meaning we're looking to take adult and college students and working with our high schoolers and use our high schoolers to help as mentors with our middle schoolers. As you know, mentors, because they're not readily available, many of us are professionals working in the world, there's not a lot of time for them to get engaged and involved with our young people. So we want to train our young people to help one another. So we envision high achieving 12th graders walking into a middle school and supporting 8th graders and helping them as they think about transition and what it takes to get to where they are. They've had success and they're in the 12th grade, they will have more. So we want. And by the way, the research support, you see the source, the research supports that. A major thing, Jim will tell you collaboration, I'm pretty sure she'll get into that. Our collaborative efforts that we have with a lot of our trusted community partners to really help us in this area, which is a big area, including your department here, the services department. We collaborate on this and support at-risk youth. So we want to continue our citywide data-driven collaboration to identify and support the needs of our most at-risk and struggling students, provide preventative and recuperative services for disengaged students. One of those actions is to strengthen Youth Connect, formerly known as Youth Staff, continue citywide data-driven collaboration to identify and support the needs of our most at-risk. As I said, we have tier 2 and tier 3 virtual meetings that take place with our community partners, Clifford Beers being one of them, the Wake Police Department, Juvenile Probation, Urban Community Alliance. So we have a plethora of various people, street outreach. They're all a part and available as part of this effort. And we have a high-risk task force, many of the same people, Juvenile Probation will identify and behavior public school students who have either been incarcerated or have had some trouble. And then we're doing custom visits to homes. So the police chief, assistant police chief Jacobs, Kate Gunning from Juvenile Probation, our street outreach team, services with Ron Huggins, and when we're all out knocking on doors, seeing what we can do to support these students to help get them back in school and see what the supports they may need to be successful. Other action, prevent and reduce exclusionary practices when this conduct occurs. One of the things that our department is doing is a whole lot of youth service, youth family and community engagement department. Gemma has hired more restorative coaches with the blessings of Dr. Tracy. We have others who will be coming on board. And our team goes into school buildings with principals and we serve as thought partners. So wherever challenges they're facing, they're able to express that and share that with us. And we're able to make recommendations and provide support, whatever that support looks like. And obviously teach professional development workshops, candidate form, story practices. Coach, she is training other trainers and getting them in buildings to work with staff around how we help people in school by using restorative circuits and other things to build community and to repair harm that's been done that kids, instead of trying to suspend, we're trying to reduce suspension. But obviously we also know that safety is a major issue. You have to build hard on side of safety first. I think this is the last slide. So very quickly, these are the phases in terms of how we bring this stuff in. Phase 1 is already started. That's the finding culture sports, Connect program, and Ride Shot mentorship program already began. Phase 2 is on next slide. Phase 2 will begin November 1st, and that's our 8th grade student council. We're trying to build leadership among our young people to help solve problems themselves within schools and support one another. So we want our most high achieving and our students. We want a combination kit, but really we want to make sure we engage our high achieving students as well to help as they articulate the thoughts of the kids in the school building we need support. Peer-to-peer mentorship, we're partnering with the Neighbor Promise program with Patricia Melton. Jim has been meeting with her on a regular basis. The Kiana Melton Development Program for food training and engagement activities for these young people. And I mentioned professional development. Keep going. So that's phase 2. Phase 3, you can see the reading campaign for 3rd graders, leadership conference for 8th graders, and high-risk community task force. Phase 4, keep going. Phase 4, self-improvement conference for our males in March, college and career fair for 11th and 12th grade males of color. Phase 5, you see the 8th grade transition assemblies and tour. Keys of success for high school success. We want our young people to know what they need to succeed at the next level. I think that's the last one. Hit it again. Hit it again.
I know that.
Again.
I know that.
Hit it again.
I know
Hit
that.
it again. That's it. All right. Thank you guys for listening.
The only thing I'm gonna add about mentorship is part of our vision is that there is a mentor for every child who needs a mentor. And we're in the process of finalizing a platform where any teacher, any community leader can go onto our NHBS mentoring platform and access a mentor for any child easily, like going on to Amazon and buying shoes. We are vetting those mentors on the back end, working in partnership with the government's partnership, Roland Harmon leading that organization. They're key to strong mentoring programs in the states. In partnership with them, we are near ready to roll out a platform of mentoring for every child.
Yeah, and this last but not least, the collaboration. We could not do this without our partners. And I just was really going to emphasize that. I think wherever we go, Jim and I always emphasize the importance of our partners, some who are here now and many who, and they may have somebody have left, but we can't do this without them. So we have to do this together. Not a problem.
So this is a comprehensive approach to what we're trying to do in New Haven Public Schools. We know wherever we can get the help and support from, you know, like the whole idea of village raising a child, and it's not people just saying what the school system is doing. That's all of us do. The support of kids. These are our kids. So whatever suggestions, ideas you have, I'm sure they're welcome to listen to these suggestions and ideas. I remember in past years when I ran King Robinson School, we had a ministerial group. I used to come in and mentor students. And it did work. And they would put on things for the kids. And we had board members who would adopt the school here and there and stay with that school and help to bring resources for the students. So if we have never needed help, now is the time. There's a sense of urgency. There's a sense of urgency. Are we going to lose a generation of young people? We can't afford that. I want to know that I retire and have my kids looking after me. So this is, we see it. What is significant about it? We see the needs. It's glaring, and it's not about even money. To be honest with you, these kids need someone next to them, someone to talk to them, someone to be. I can trust you, and they don't trust very easily. But when they do trust you, they trust you. I've been around to the school. I've been to all the schools about 3 times over already, and still going back and spending more time and having conversations with principals. And I see this struggle, and I don't know what to do. I'm honest with you. When I see kindergartners racing out, running out of the classroom, and people have to be chasing after them, and when I see them biting and spitting and kicking, you don't know. If you were my child, I wouldn't know what to do, but that's a different story. But these are other people's children who we are caring for. And I've seen where teachers are getting in trouble because they're trying to restrain and say, I have long nails and my nails get caught. And now you have to put that teacher out because now it's a DCF report that the teacher scratched my child. So everybody's doing this like, hands off, and we can't have our schools become chaotic places. It's a challenge. So that's in a nutshell. We still have some great things happening.
Oh, yeah.
We have great things happening in public schools.
Absolutely. Any questions from the committee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Of all the programs that you listed, how many are already actually into play, or how many, or percentage?
Well, phase 1 I talked about, the Ride and Shine program. We're really, right now, our main schools are 83%. So the first year, our Youth Connect program is in place. We're collaborating, we're meeting bi-weekly. Like I said, it's tier 2 is on the opposite week of tier 3. And what that is like, for instance, with tier 2, we're focused on kids who dealt with some form of trauma, who are overage, undercredited, or were chronically absent. So that's tier 2 for now. With those kids, if they rise to tier 3 level, by the way, the partners there are people like Clifford Bears, I mentioned, the Urban Community Alliance, and many of our school staff, our social workers, our school psychologists, all of our staff are in that meeting as well. And we have other partners that are included in that meeting. At the tier 3 level, it's for those who are involved with some neighborhood conflict, gang affiliation or of some sort, or are coming home from incarceration. And so they need support. So you will find in that meeting, the police department, juvenile probation, street outreach, the services department, and we're collaborating and talking. Even the Hampton police are joining those conversations because there's so much on the borderline. We're having conversations about who these kids are and what kind of supports they need. We're trying to reduce arrests, and we're trying to do more intervention ahead of time before if they come home, we know they're in trouble, we want to stop them from getting into trouble. So.
And as far as your in-school support, I know we went to that years ago. And yes, it works for some students, for some situations, let me say it that way. It's not effective for every situation. But I personally feel from some stories I've heard from parents in schools, students in schools, from my constituents, and even some of my friends that work in the school system, that program really needs some work. Because it is, and I think you guys better look at that like quickly, like real fast, like yesterday and tomorrow morning. So because of the pandemic, even pre-pandemic, but it's a lot worse now. And it scares me because it's different from when I was growing up. These K-8 schools, it's too much for me. And to me, the younger kids, they see and experience too much. And, you know, your school environment, you might as well watch HBO, XXX night or something crazy. Because of something social media. You know, the kids are on technology. Yeah, as parents, it's our job. We gotta, you know, make sure we know what our children are doing. But that part of it scares me for the students, but also for the staff. And I want to know how are you guys also supporting your staff through this? Because everything sounds pretty and looks cute and typed in that blue font, but we know realistically things don't work perfectly.
Right.
So my fear is that I don't ever want you guys to come here and give us the, you know, the pretty shiny part.
This is real.
Because I'm just being honest, because then I get kicked out of chambers a lot because of the fact. People are like, you ask hard questions. I'm passionate and I'm just very honest. And when it comes to kids and.
So these things in Edwards are happening. It's not horse and pony show. They're happening. However, I just said to you, we are struggling. Because with all these things going on, we have 20,000 students in American public schools. There are no quick fixes to any of this. We cannot do our work without the support of families also. And when you have families on the other hand struggling, and I don't know what to do with my child, what do you expect teachers to do? The teachers, I said, are struggling. The principals are struggling. I'm the superintendent, I'm struggling as to what to do to mitigate some of the issues that we're seeing. A lot of the issues we're seeing border on mental health issues, which our teachers were not trained to handle those situations. So even though you may go in, and Jody works in the school, go in and give support, it's not the same thing. Many of our social workers, I know people are saying social work, social work, social work. Many of our social workers are not clinical social workers. Many of these things need clinical social working situation. Many of the social workers deal a lot with the special education population. So we have recently hired more social workers, more guidance counselors to help support what is happening. And what we did today in our meeting today, executive meeting, we were discussing about prioritizing the schools. So we can't deal with all of them at the same time, but do what is called a SWOT analysis of our schools, getting both quantitative and qualitative information and organize and spread it out in front of us. Okay, what are the current resources we have in school X or school Z, whatever it is, and which schools we need to really target, give like a clinical ICU targeted approach. Those are the kinds of discussions that are going on. We have to take the kids who come to us from where they are, we're public school, we're through the magnet, we draw everybody into our system. We don't differentiate and say, I'm taking you, I'm not taking you. And this is our responsibility. And many teachers and administrators were trained around certain things, certain theories, certain practices. But we're seeing something that we're not trained for. And that's why we reach out to people like Clifford Beers and other people hey, come over to Macedonia and help us, come over and support us, we need help. So we are not afraid to say we need help. We're never gonna go out and tell anyone that everything is hunky-dory, we would never say that. At least, I'm a very honest shooter, open and honest, we'll never say that. But what we know we're doing well, we're doing well, and what we know we're struggling with, we're here telling you this is a struggle. This is indeed a struggle. So as communities, what can we do as we wrap our arms around our children?
Ms. Evers, you should know, looking across this table, you really dealing with you folks who scared now. You know how we get down. Everybody here, we speak our mind, we say what we mean, we say. So, you know, it is what it is, you know. Saying what you speak,
That's
so
my
it's
ask.
the commitment.
I need transparency.
Mhm.
That's the word I'm gonna use.
Right, and so,
Um,
and just so you know, and just so you know, we are, as Dr. Tracy mentioned, we start in our lowest performing schools where the most challenges at, because obviously we don't have enough people to really go across 54 schools. But we have identified schools that really need that support, and that's what we're starting at. So, you know.
Also, after school, between school hours, big deal, big priority for us, and that's strategic. We can find people. For the first time,
We can find.
we have people who do not want to come in before school and work from 7:30 to 9 o'clock because of everything else that's going on in their world. And people don't want to stay after school from 3:30 to 5:30 because of everything else that's going on. For the first time, we cannot find enough people. We're turning to our partners and asking our community partners to step up, and we have to be very careful. Not everybody can come in and take on whole school after school programs. Somebody can do a little piece here, can do a little piece there. So we have to carefully vet and look for partners, including we're talking to the YMCA, talking to the Boys and Girls Club, talking to other organizations that can come in and do after school.
And as you talk about what we're doing for our teachers, Tiffany Jackson, we call her our SEL guru, she has sent out a survey to the staff to find out from them, what are your needs? What are your needs? And it's interesting what they say their needs are, right? And she's working on what to do with the staff, not only teachers, but administrators, they're all there in that. So it's not just the students, because when the teachers struggle, the students also struggle. And when the students struggle, the teachers also struggle, and I struggle, and everybody's struggling as to what to do. We never asked for this pandemic that, you know, caused things to go awry more than what it has normally been. But it's something we have to deal with. And the important thing is that we recognize that there's a need, and we find ways to mitigate as much as we can. But we're not going to promise anyone a rose garden, never ever.
I have like a quarter of a point four part of the question. You spoke on my next question already about hiring of social workers and guidance counselors. Like, what numbers are we trying to achieve?
So in just about every school now has a social worker. And the high schools have more than one because they're bigger. So every school has a social worker, every school has a guidance counselor. In previous administration, they cut them out because of saving, but through the finances we're getting right now, we're hiring back and replacing. But just so you know, that's only for 2 years. It's from the ARC-EXA grant that we're able to do that. The extra teachers we hire is also from the grant, so it's just a matter of 2 years. So what happened? How do we sustain that after 2 years? You know, so that's where we are.
Are they full-time at those schools?
From my knowledge, the social workers are full-time. From my knowledge, they're full-time. There may be a school where they're sharing 1 year and there because they still can't find people. There may be a couple of schools who are sharing social workers. But we're still looking for people. One thing I need to say that I probably didn't say, there's a shortage of staff. Not only shortage of bus drivers, and shortage of staff. We have positions that are still not filled because we cannot find the staff to fill those positions. So, and you know, when you have short staff, not only education will be impacted, but behavior is going to also be an issue. So it's just honest truth, shortage of staff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no further questions.
She forgot who you are. She forgot who you are.
Oh, Miss Edwards, I've been around for a donkey years. So.
Tracy, she'll say, okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you all for joining us on today. I'm glad you mentioned the ESSER ARPA funds because it's always answer it. I have to add some additional context to this conversation because I just feel like some folks might be walking in on this a little myopically. There was always an issue finding staff in the first place because of certification issues, licensing. My wife was an ACF social worker, so I know what's happening there. And that's a hurdle. And it's beyond you all. It is a state issue. Every time I can get a chance, we have to address the certification process. We have to figure out alternative routes to getting qualified individuals that might not have taken the coursework in college. Right now, educators are being forced to go back into a cycle. There have been some changes, but it's not enough. It's simply not enough. So there was a problem to begin with. So on top of this, in a moment, it's just being exacerbated. So I need to add that context. Two, about the risk in terms of after school programming, before school programming. I'm reflecting on a community meeting that happened at Fame School a month ago or so. And there seemed to be quite a few community members who were trying to access school buildings, but there appeared to be requirements that I guess if they don't have a formal nonprofit organization, it's hard to come in and try to do something, even if they're like a qualified basketball coach. So for many years, I've pondered, I've pondered formally adopting my school in the neighborhood and trying to bring over the gym back, like, just kind of get the community members in here who we know do whatever it takes to take over the school after school hours. But every time you start, so I'll use an example. My wife is a dance teacher. She did dance in Allegheny for many years, qualified. Tried to access the school during this time period to conduct an introductory ballet course for free. It was just like paperwork. You need to start either a business or a nonprofit. We need insurance. It's just a lot of hurdles for folks who are trying to get back. And it's just like, forget it. And I often reflect on a program that I launched at Lincoln Bassett many years ago, which was a school initiative. I brought 30 churches in the New England County area coming with their neighborhood, adopted schools, did the mentorship program. I know that there's a strong interest there. And there's possible collaborations for grant programs and bridging those gaps as well. I'm wondering what your capacity is to address nonprofits, some that you've already named, and the church community around possible grant opportunities beyond ARPA and ESSA. Two, how do we relax some of these regulations or support it? I don't know legally how to address that, but like there are qualified coaches and individuals who want to come in and do things, but they've been blocked. It's a lot of bureaucracy. So for now, those are my two questions.
So let me answer about the bureaucratic part of it. So, we can't allow just about anyone to come in and work with our kids because everything goes wrong, it's on the board of ed. So when we require insurance, you have to show proof of insurance.
She's a BCR social worker. So I use that example.
I know. I'm just
clearly
saying.
Did it.
Yes.
So I'm not talking just random, I'm talking qualified individuals who are already working with the students in the community.
Understood.
It is a lot of paperwork. We're asking for help, but when the help shows up, they're blocked. How do we address that?
Well, with every organization, I understand, I hear where you're coming from, there's still protocols in place. And part of the protocols, even though we may know the individuals, is protection of our children. And I'm not saying individuals who are coming in are not great community members, but the Board of Ed has to defend if somebody gets hurt, a child gets hurt, working on the Jody, and Jody works in the school system, and Jody doesn't show insurance, a child gets hurt, guess who's gonna, problem's gonna be on the Board of Ed. So we require insurance. Another thing we require, like in the summer, we require that those people have to show that they're licensed childcare providers, that's per the state, so we can't just go and say, come in and do this. Well, we know many people out there who are willing to come in and do things. Another thing that keeps people away even now is COVID. You have to show that you're COVID vaccinated, right? You can't just come in now, so that's another layer added to that. So it's not that we don't want people to come in, and it may be a lot of red tape to go through, but a lot of red tapes is in protection of the organization. That's all. That's the simplest way of answering it.
So we will continue to be in this perpetual while we have this issue. And I just would be remiss not to mention it, because I'm meeting a coach, Kevin, Wilbur Cross. I mean, these are folks that are already working with our kids, and this proposal for the open gym, the night basketball, you know, there are things that could be expanded upon. And if the need is so great, I'm wondering if there's a working group that could think through all the things that you named to address the hurdle. Otherwise, we're just gonna keep hearing, yeah, we need a need, but the need is not, you all are not pushing them away, but essentially that's what's happening as a wall. There's a bit of a bureaucratic wall. So,
Thanks for bringing that up. We explore.
I think I asked a financial question as well.
And you won't be to disagree from us. I think there's a definite need, right? But I also have to share this, and I'm glad I have the ears right here of all this, because one thing that I thought we missed out on. I remember the days when we had a park and rec supervisor in our school building in the evening with open gym. And unfortunately, we took that out of the city budget. And vans to take kids from, they knew the kids in the neighborhood, which is a big problem right now when we have violence and things that happen. We have people that don't know the kids in the community right now. You know, I mean, very few people do. So our park and recreation supervisors are very important at that. And I'd ask if you guys review that as well. I mean, we can look, I'm pretty sure Dr. Tracy's gonna have us look at that piece in terms of the protocols and procedures, because we know there are organizations who might not have the structure or the wherewithal, know-how to access the district. And maybe that's something we can work on, but we just ask also if you guys review park and rec supervisors.
So I'm so happy you mentioned that. So I served on the mayoral transition team some years ago. And in part of that transition report, I led the process in terms of the creation of the present department for youth services and recreation. Part of my recommendation was to restore those positions back to the schools. So is there a reporter here tonight? No, I don't know. We did propose it. It was ignored. We do have the budget for it. Other priorities are being led in other places for political reasons, and that's not on you all. So I'm just saying, we actually did that work. I did.
Because it would make the process easier. It would make things a whole lot easier knowing that we have partners who we've already gone through the process with who are there. It would certainly help us.
It was a strong recommendation from many of my colleagues on this board, many who are sitting here, to see that implemented some years ago. So just for the record, we did not cut that. That's a priority of the mayor and his administration. So we're in strong support of that. We can refer to that transition report with the details I actually provided. Oh, it was a financial question.
Other reasons.
Yes. So, in reference to, potential grant opportunities, with, nonprofit organizations, some of whom we already work with and have pursued grant opportunities that I am aware of, and, engaging the church community. And the last bullet point was about staffing and addressing the salary, increases, and potential. That could also be a hurdle as to why we're not finding individuals looking to do part-time work. In particular, I find it interesting, I started in this district as a substitute teacher at the last time, and it was the same wage, basically, from the time that I started 8 years ago, and the increase, I wouldn't do it. Just the cost of living has changed in a dramatic way. So how do we utilize the ESSA funds and ARPA funding, if we can, I don't know, to increase those salaries? So we can.
You can't use that. That fund has stipulations. A lot of people, and we have it on our side, there's stipulations as to how those can be used, because it would be considered supplanting, what have you. We can't use it for that, but we have areas like some infrastructure work, technology work, fixing playgrounds and things like that, because we're going through accreditation right now, NIAC accreditation for younger students. So we have money where we have to make sure the playgrounds are up to par for NIAC accreditation, so that's there. HVAC systems, they allow those things. So schools are doing a what they call an analysis facilities study right now that the board passed for them to do a facility study, and then they're going to try to prioritize the schools need, because our buildings are 20 or more years old, even though they look brand new on the outside, and so some of them the systems need need to be fixed, and so those are things we're looking at. We put in the grant, and the state just approve our grant to go through for those things, and so there's things that I don't want to be in the place of West Haven where you do things that are outside of the grant parameters. So we stay close to the guidelines of the grant. However, as you mentioned, substitute teachers, we did raise the cost to $100 per day. That may still be a drop in the bucket, but we are competing with other districts around us that don't have that. Our union subs are getting $125 per day plus benefits and other stuff. So there are different tiers of stuff. Those who are doing long-term subbing, as opposed to those who are just coming in a day or two here. So we've tried to address that. And as you know, on our board, with regard to part-time pay, we still keep it somewhat above the minimum wage that the feds or the government has, just to keep it somewhat competitive. And is it enough? Probably not, but we also have to look at our budget. A lot of these things, we have the general funds budget, and we have the, what is that budget? Special funds budget. Special funds budget have a lot of parameters attached to them, and you get audited a lot. General funds, we get audited by the city and internal audit, but in terms of general funds, last year, the teachers union stepped in, and a lot of people don't understand that. One who even has a lot of money. Yeah, remember I said money everywhere. Remember that statement I made? And I was real about that. In the general funds budget last year, the union came to our rescue. We were very pleasantly surprised and free and froze salary. Or we'll be looking at a major deficit this year on general funds. And last year, you guys authorized $1.5 million. That's probably, I don't know if the same thinking was there that you have money, but we're looking at a looming deficit in general funds, because those same teachers now are getting what was not given to them last year, right? So that's a lot of increase on that side. And when we thought at one point, to be honest with you, they had said that our ESSA does not have some of those stipulations, and we could have used it to offset something. We were called in and told, look, no. So when my former CFO planned the budget, he was incorporating those things that we were initially told that we could have done And now find out we can. So I'm telling you right now, obviously looking at the looming deficit coming up. We were able to end the year with $91,000, you know, in surplus, which was a good thing. 2 years of keeping the budget ending without having a deficit, but I cannot say what this year is going to be. So, don't know. And we do have, I wish we could just take the funds over and do, but we know we cannot create a cliff, because when that money is gone, we are in trouble. Okay. So, but thank you for listening to us, we do appreciate it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to make a comment. I appreciate your honesty, Dr. Tracy. I've always thought you was a superhero. Jackie Robinson stages that you can just run anything. And I understand you have a lot of adversity that you have to deal with from the parents to the students and also to the staff, some staff. I just want to say I do appreciate you and I appreciate the other two superheroes that's on your side. Continue to stick by her, to be her rock, because she truly needs that. The city is a very hard city to be dealing with, especially with the parents that are here. One thing I want to say that if any way possible to be more transparent with the parents. I know during the pandemic, it was so hard to do so because they were distanced. And we know we have a lot of parents out here that really need help themselves. If we can find ways to ease the load, and I mean by easing the load by having these more meetings and conversations instead of by Zoom, but in person, but very respectful meetings with the parents, even if you start off in small numbers. That way, you know, it's just like that internet, right?
Yeah.
When you bring on a couple of parents that has that rowdiness, the whole room gets rowdy. But if you can start off by school, a little bit at a time, so that they understand you, because you are a person of reason. Always have that. And they really need to know you for who you really are, a caring, gentle giant is what you are. So I just ask you to just be much more, you know, acceptable to and listen, right? Something that these guys used to always tell me to listen, right? And I took advice, so please take this advice. Listen to what the parents have to say, which I find you doing that, but really hear them out. And I think by doing that, it would make a great change in the system, because we would see that, hey, these parents really need help. And if there's any way that we as alders, as community can be of a great help, please let us know where we can help that, because we're gonna be your buffers in between, because the first thing that people would do, they think the alders can save the world. And I'm noticing that the alders can't save the world. But if we work together to resolve and solve these problems, we can diffuse issues that are at hand. And that's all that I ask, that we all work together so that we can diffuse these issues and be that buffer for you in the community. And I just want to say personally, thank you for what you're doing for us at the center. That's, you know, growing. I deeply appreciate all the work that you are doing to making sure that the center comes to fruition, so that we can be a help to the school for after school programs. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you saying that, Ms. One of the reasons COVID kept us from in person, my plans was, you know, have regional parent meetings that contribute for the regions of New Haven. But COVID kept us from that, and also with the health department, we have to watch the number of people that we bring into any in-person meeting. So, but that is something we're certainly, and that's great advice, thinking about doing it. We've had regional parent meetings via Zoom, but it's still not enough. We've had all Zoom webinars with parents. We were pleasantly surprised. One of the meetings we had 1,000 parents signing on to one and another 200 on Zoom, on YouTube. And that was one of the largest we've had. We were giving updates of what's happening in the school system, but it doesn't give them that opportunity to get their questions fielded. We had about 500 something questions. There's no way we could have fielded those questions in such a short time. So that's good advice. We'll take that and we'll act upon that. And you know I'm coming after you, so and then the working, so don't.
Any further questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, you mentioned why to avoid flip. What's the cost of having social workers in each school? And, you know, what would we be looking at if the city wanted to keep this on past the expiration of the federal funds?
So thanks for asking that, social workers are considered teachers by category. Guidance counselor also considered teachers. So social worker, beginning social worker cost is $45,000 per year plus benefits. If they have more years of experience and start climbing into other categories of salary. And right now we're trying to be careful that they're signing something to say, we know that this agreement is 2 years. Now at the end of 2 years, you have to start searching. Unless we can say, take them on. We don't want to be promising people and then take them over on general funds and create another problem over here, which we know we can't afford. So everybody who's coming in knows that it's a 2-year gig by reason of, what should I say? Not by reason of strength this time, it's by reason of, depending on how we handle the finances, and we may be able to carry some people over into the 3rd year, that kind of thing. We can look at budget revision, what was not spent down as we had expected to spend down this year. Because we think we're gonna have that, because they just approved the grant, and it's gonna take another while for them to send their award letter, and then for us to set up accounts and what have you, it's gonna take a while. So we're anticipating having some money that can tide over, that we probably can push some people over into a 3rd year. But barring that, unless we get some more money in general funds from the Board of Oh, that's funny. Well, thank you so much.
But just to pencil that out, it's like, if that's the salary, so it's like maybe $75,000 for someone all in with their benefits. And then there's 40.
That's 41 schools.
41, okay,
And the high schools have more than one.
in the high school setting. So maybe you got 50 in total, so it's like
Oh,
3.5 million. And then you also mentioned other outside of social workers, guidance counselors, restorative coaches, in-house care coordinators. What are the numbers look like for that? What are the goals look like? Those goals.
So we have 2 new coaches that are currently hired under the ESSA grant, at around $50,000-$60,000, depending on the experience plus benefits. And we are bringing in 6 care coordinators around the same salary level.
I really appreciate that you all have been talking about the socio-emotional learning long before the pandemic. In listening to the presentation, I was trying to understand though, how does that interface with curriculum? Is this something that's like incorporated into lesson plans? Is it something that's happening outside of regular classes in a designated time? Both? What does it actually look like for a student in their day at school, in their week?
Glad you asked that question. So when we talk about SEL, it's an integration of, so I may be reading a book about a certain character or whatever, and I can kind of find a way of including some of those things in there, talking about self-awareness or all these things we talk about in social emotional learning. Those things can be interjected or interwoven into those lessons. So teachers plan, and some schools have what they call social emotional learning time. We have Wellness Wednesday still going on, where teachers take a break from it all and just focus on activities in their classrooms. So it's both an integration into lessons and also special time in many places. They have, some schools have crew, which is the morning meeting, to actually talk to their kids, assess what's going on, get a sense of what the issues may be. It's not in every school, but that's what we're aiming at, that is happening. So it is still a work in progress with the integration of social emotional learning into the school system. We've been doing this for about 5 years and trying to scale up, because it takes a lot to get it scaled up. We have developed what we call social emotional learning academies for teachers after school. We have to pay them to take these classes or what have you. But the more we do that, we're building. And as we build, we're losing teachers, and we continue to build and we build and keep moving for sustainability purposes. We're also working with Yale Child Studies Center. And we're bringing them back aboard big time this year to work with us and to support our schools.
Thanks, that's helpful to know. I think both approaches are really good. I think like having that time carved out for a student is an important signal that this is a critical thing, you know, like just like math or reading, writing, or science, like having time in the schedule that's just about to this. So I'm glad that that's a goal for the district. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Just one quick question. I was looking through, I'm sure we could potentially get an estimate of how many students you think will be participating in any programs that you mentioned that would be curious about.
So that would take, we could not give you a number offhand. That would take some kind of analysis, which we're going through right now. As we look at, we have programs in our school, it's called 360 programs, and where people input information about students. So right now, we're trying to get everybody involved in the SEL work right now, but we can only do so much if we're trained. Does that make sense? So first of all, this training, and we're continuing the training and scaling up as much as we can into these. As it relates to students who are struggling, we're analyzing now. We're looking at both quantitative and qualitative information coming from the schools. So one of the things we're doing, we're not quick to be suspending first, second grade, or with the kids, and that would state law against that anyhow. So what do you do with them? They may not be suspended, but what is happening for them as they struggle through the school? So it may be a significant number. Honestly, from talking and just getting anecdotal information from schools, and you ask teachers, how you, it's rough. Oh God, when are you guys gonna tell me something positive? It's rough. Principals, it's rough. SAA union coming to us, it's rough. It is. It is rough. And when you have a school, as our major comprehensive high school, we have 35 people out per day. They call SOS, come over. We all left central office over. Everybody to support, and that's put on top of people who are an FMLA. It's rough out. It's rough out there, people. You can.
Don't forget the holiday season when things pick up.
Oh God, yes, that's so. You guys can really, you can set up with us anytime to walk with us into the schools and get the real deal. But make sure you're vaccinated.
You guys know it's challenging with the holiday season.
Yes, holiday season.
So emotional, right? Yeah, so we're racing for that too.
So, following up on all the these questions, is the expectation for a sub, is that like an 8-hour day?
Subs?
For substitute teacher?
6.5.
6.5, okay. It's $100.
You ready to sub?
I have to say, all the rankings, the numbers aren't so generous.
We have a lot of subs who become teachers in the system. They started out subbing. One of my assistant superintendents started out subbing. She's now assistant superintendent. So I subbed for a little while,
And then I got right into my business. It's not easy, so it's a rough thing, because they don't know you. And it's like, yeah, teacher not here today.
Oh, we'll be bad.
I love children.
Maybe we should.
And just one last quick question, I know you said you're gonna be doing data so you can go to schools in need first. How can we give support to the other schools? I know we have 54 schools. I know every school that I've talked to says they need help.
So,
And families say they need help. So how can we do maybe something smaller scale for the other schools that are not as severe?
So every school will be getting the support of the mechanism is built in to even our grants to support every school. If you notice what we did recently, which I thought was a smart thing, when we got the ARPA grant, remember when we pushed it out to schools? And schools with their teams determine, we give schools monies based on, if you're a magnet school, you're only gonna get this amount of allocation. If you're non-magnet, you're getting this. If you're a high school, you're getting 200,000 or whatever it is. And so we allowed the principal and their team to decide what they're doing with that fund of money that we give to them, rather than we're at the top funneling down. So it depends on how they use those funds in their building. Some of them are building outdoor classrooms and trying to go to common ground as a practice out in nature and all these things. So we have given, I think we've done a great thing. I'm not adding myself, but I think it was a good thing to have done, and it was a change in the way we allocate funds. And they still have their general funds, and they still have their magnet funds of their magnet school, they still have Title I funds, but it's just extra we're giving to them to make a difference in their schools. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes.
So in terms of resources, we can't complain about the financial resources right now for the next 2 years or so. It's a matter of finding the human capital. That makes sense?
Yes. Well, thank you so much for your presentation. Thank you for your hard work. And we will continue to work on concerns for mental health with our children.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
I really know that kid.
You know,
Yeah. And I think I got him in my phone.
The first picture was on the
It's all good.
Yeah, that. All right, bye, everybody.
Take care. All right, guys. Take care. You know, anything out there? Let's see, I see some good stuff.
That includes you too, remember that.
Would anyone like to speak from the public? Would anyone like to speak? One more time, would anyone like to speak from the public? Favor? Carried.
So you're here.
Thank you.
All in favor? All in favor? Thank you.
Good. We tight. Does this have your email?
That's why we signed in.
So she'll send it to you. You can also see it on our Board of Alders YouTube page.
Oh, okay. Fancy, geez, you know?
I learned it from
I'll send you ladies a peek tonight.